Well, hello everyone. My name is Liat. Very, very grateful compulsive eater and bulimic. I measure 3 meals a day on my sheet, write them down, call them into my sponsor. Don't eat anything in between, no matter what. And abstinence is just absolutely the most important thing in your life. I do this without exception, thank God. And my abstinence date is November 6th, 2020. I can't keep saying thank God anymore because it's a miracle. Um, and I'm really grateful to be here. Thank you so much, Linda. I, earlier in recovery, and I'm still early in recovery, 2 years early, but especially in this fellowship, um, I'm used to going to meetings and sharing where I like go to that meeting, you know? It's so cool to have someone ask me to come to a meeting to share. I just feel very humble. So thank you so much for asking me. And just to see all of your faces is incredible. And to come to this meeting at 7:30 p.m. Most of my recovery was in England. And I would see this meeting or I'd hear about it and I wouldn't be able to go because it would be when I was sleeping. And thankfully, I'm now back in America and I'm here and I couldn't be more grateful. But yeah, so Linda asked me to share a little bit about my history, about my story. And it's funny because I was saying it really changes every time I tell it. As I recover, I think I see things a little more clearly one day at a time. So here's what I got today. I used to focus a lot on like my childhood and my family. And I think I'll just leave it at saying that I was a very like hole in the soul kind of kid, very like deep emotional kid. And food was a very dear friend, very helpful. And in that way, I once heard someone share in a meeting, like I really did get all of the promises in the big book from food. It just came with a lot of really serious consequences. And when I was a kid, it meant I was really, really overweight or obese. I think a lot of us have had that experience. And that was true for me kind of unusually until I was like 25. I was just a compulsive eater and really overweight and obese. And then I had a small moment where I did a yoga teacher training program and I found some peace. And it lasted about 18 months. And I managed to lose 80 pounds. And I don't really have much more to say. I don't know how I did it. I really don't know how that happened. It was the only time in my life I was ever able to kind of keep that together. But I think it had a lot to do with, it says on the gray sheet, we do need like a spiritual program. Ours is a threefold illness, right? We need to remember our recovery on the spiritual and emotional level. So I think there was some spiritual recovery going through that kind of way of being, but not for very long. And after I lost all the weight and the binging came back, I'd not eaten that much food in so long that I actually like threw up accidentally. And then such became the addiction that I realized, wow, I can do both. I can stay this size and I can eat how I've always wanted to eat foods that I kind of knew I couldn't control. Well, it didn't matter anymore because I would just get rid of them. Oh man. So for the next 4 years, I ate like heroin addicts do drugs. It was my whole reason for being alive. And that's really, I think, like, I'll just finish with that bit by saying I was really bad to the point that in the mothership fellowship, I had a bunch of people tell me I was going to die because I was the sickest person they'd ever met. And also, I was really seeking, I was really like, I really get that spiritual malady thing. I really felt the spiritual malady. But I came into recovery when I was living in London, and I came into OA first. And my first meeting, I heard that there was a big book study, and I thought, yeah, I'm a student. I like to study things. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this perfectly. I'm going to get abstinent right away. I worked all 12 steps, didn't get abstinent. I don't know that I even got one day of abstinence, but the big book study ended, and I realized it hadn't done anything for me. And so I figured I better go and get myself someone to help me with the food part of it, not just the spiritual part of it. And I did. I found someone. She gave me a meal plan, kind of what we do, pretty similar. And so I got about 2 months of recovery, but I knew I was eating something that was still triggering my allergy. And when I would tell her, she'd say, no way, there's no way. This is the perfect meal plan, which led me to as we like to say, a still worse relapse. I thought that was as bad as it could get. And I really thought I was going to die. And that went from like December of 2019 through COVID, March 2020, when a very incredible dear fellow introduced me to GreySheet. And I came into GreySheet, and my very first meal, do you know what? My first meeting, so this person told me about GreySheet, and I immediately got on the phone bridge, and I didn't get off until I got a phone number. Someone took my dinner, and then I stayed up until I found a sponsor that night, because I just knew this was really my last shot to survive. And I was abstinent like from then, for 2 months. And then I made a mistake with my scale, and I didn't actually realize at that time, I don't know what I had been doing, but I missed this, but I needed to call that in, obviously, and tell my sponsor. So she sent me back that for like 10 minutes. No? Oh, okay. Well, I thought this is such an effective meal plan that I am just going to control and enjoy my binge food tonight. And then I'll just hop back on tomorrow. And that was the worst relapse. That was the worst relapse. By the grace of God, it's been keeping me abstinent. No, I'm just kidding. It's not what's keeping me abstinent, but I really did almost die right there. So the reason I'm sharing that is just to say, nobody is too sick to recover in this room. The number of people who told me in that fellowship that I was going to die, that I was too sick, that I should check myself into a 12-step, residential treatment facility, even though we all agreed those things didn't work. I came here. I've never heard anyone say that to me. In fact, I've heard other people say, me too. People told me I was going to die too. So, thank God for GreySheet. I owe my life to GreySheet. But then a new phase was really all the no matter what. Because I think I thought I'd get abstinent, and then everything else that I had on my checklist for God that I wanted, I was just going to get it all, unstoppable. And it has not been that experience. I just get to live life abstinent. That's really the only true thing I can say about life abstinent. I get to do it. I get to live one day at a time. These things probably would have happened anyway, they might have killed me. But let's see what's happened so far. November 2020, I moved in the same city. I also moved internationally. I really feel overshadowed. Oh, here's one. I got pregnant. So that was the whole reason I tried to get abstinent was my husband said, until you recover, we're not going to have a baby. We managed to get pregnant. I did abstinent pregnancy by the grace of God and my sponsor. And then here's the kicker. We found out. So I got pregnant in February. June, we found out that he had died. And you know what? It's a miracle. It's kind of difficult to explain like what that experience is like. And I also have had a weird version of the experience because by that point I had a lot more spiritual recovery than really like physical recovery, because I'd been working the steps by that point for like years. And I had maybe like a year and a half of gray sheet recovery. And I brought God into it. And weird that I even can say God, because I came into this program 100% an atheist and very proud of being an atheist. I'm a scientist, don't you know? But what I realized is I didn't grieve him. I wasn't grieving my son. I was grieving the mother that I wanted to be for my son. Because if I were to grieve him, I would have been placing expectations on him. You know, he lived as long as he was supposed to live. And through his tiny little life, we managed to move to America. You know, I got to be his mom for 15 weeks. He lived inside of me for 15 weeks. And it's not even like I'm attempting to be Pollyanna about this. I just haven't felt grief over it. I really only felt gratitude and awe. The way that we found out, and then the way that I was able to give birth, all held, all supported by all of you, and abstinence. And yeah, I also think eating this way, you know, that spiritual malady is definitely metaphysical, but I think it's also chemical. And when I started eating this way, that really kind of hopeless feeling lifted. It's just made me a happier person and a kinder person. It's made me more of the person that I always wished to be. But recently, the biggest thing, this might sound weird, but the biggest thing is I've always really identified with being like smart. And I needed everyone to know how smart I was. So I was just collecting academic credentials. That's what I've been doing my whole life. In fact, like when I moved to London to be with my husband, part of it was I was like, right, okay, so what's the best university in all of England for the thing I'm doing? That's where I'm going to go. And self-will run riot, really. And I managed to elbow my way into a PhD program. And I've been struggling with it ever since, because I'm really not designed for like independent research. And I made a decision last week, maybe a week ago, maybe a little less than a week ago, that I'm just going to take a year off. I'm not going to do anything. It'll keep, because I've been in academia 100% of the time since I was 4 years old. And I need to find out, now that I'm abstinent, I need to find out who I am. But like maybe more importantly, I have no idea how much time. 1 minute. Thank you, Carla. I'll end on this. The way that I lived my life before I got abstinent, and then including when I got abstinent a little bit, is like procrastinate until the last possible moment, mostly BS everything. Like take scraps that I know, like tiny things, and pretend like I just know everything. And I managed to really self-will my way to this point in my life. But to be able to continue living my life with integrity, I realized the other day, I mean, it took many, many, many months to make the decision, but in making the decision, it's like I weigh and measure my food and I learned to be honest there. And I'm learning to be honest just generally. And yeah, like more will be revealed, but the steps are the best. After Gray Sheet, the 12 steps. Thank you guys so much. And thank you, Carla. I will leave it there.